Disney's Epcot theme park, or the experimental prototype community of tomorrow, has been in a constant state of replacements, refurbishments, and reimaginings for over half a decade. Now, with most of the construction complete, the Walt Disney Company apparently wants to know the perceived quality of those investments by surveying guests on what they thought about at least one of them, that being Communicore Hall. Let's talk about what some media outlets have dubbed an embarrassment here on That Park Place. Ron? Culture, I'm sure you maybe experienced this, maybe in person. I don't know, actually, Culture. Maybe you haven't experienced this in person, but I know Ron has. Let's go ahead and bring this up right now. This coming from Walt Disney World News Today. Disney survey asks guests about Communicore Hall at Epcot. This is a very interesting story. This is by Shannon Ace, February 1st, 2025. In a survey sent to guests who visit the Epcot International Festival of the Arts, Disney is asking for their thoughts on Communicore Hall. Let's see if we can make these bigger. Yes, we can. This is from Disney Parks here. You previously indicated that you visited Communicore Hall featuring the Disney on Broadway walkthrough exhibit during your trip to the Epcot International Festival of the Arts on January 29th. Please indicate how much you agree or disagree with the following statement. Quote, current offerings within Communicore Hall are a valuable use of this space. And then it goes from strongly agree to strongly disagree. Please elaborate on why you agree that the current offerings within Communicore Hall are a valuable use of the space. And it allows you to put in 500 characters. And was January 29th your first time visiting Communicore Hall since it opened on June of 2024? And then it says, I believe here, during which of the following times have you previously visited Communicore Hall during your trip to Epcot, with a whole bunch of different festivals, by the way. They're not even giving you dates based on anything else, like the seasonality. For example, they have summer here, but they don't have like winter or anything like that. They have the festivals, which really I think reflects Disney's thought process when it comes to this park. Let's see, how would you rate your overall experience with Communicore Hall during this festival compared to Communicore Hall during summer 2024? Would you say that Communicore Hall during this festival was much better, somewhat better? This is really interesting, guys. I've not really seen this for a facility like this before. Do you think Disney is getting feedback that maybe this wasn't all that it could be?
Obviously. I mean, I mean, I'm sorry. It's not a very, on the exterior, it's not a very attractive building. They didn't decide to theme anything around it. It looks like partially finished, silly, Chinese version of Minecraft with the shapes and everything that are there. Interior wise, it looks like probably the best airport concourse restaurant you've ever seen. But aside from that, it's terrible. It's ugly and uninspiring. And that's being kind. Inside, outside, not great. And look, I mean, they tore down a building that they could have repurposed to do this dumbness. Look, I mean, everything that they did during the so-called redo of Project Gamma for the 7th time has been less than stellar. So, like I said, that's my very positive review of Communicore, or whatever this thing is supposed to be.
I'm going to have to disagree with Culture on one very specific point. I have seen many an airport concourse that looks far better than this.
Yeah.
So I apologize, but there are lots of airport concourses and waiting areas. And hey, Orlando Airport. I was there not that long ago, and that looks better than Communicore Hall. Other than I will say this, I was looking for the survey because I'm a pass holder, and I've been to the Communicore Hall a couple times during the Broadway event. And I don't see, for some reason, I'm not getting a survey. I don't know why I'm not getting it, but that's weird. What I'm going to say is that both on the positive and negative side of things, the Broadway thing is the best that they've made this space look. So what this does is, on the positive side of things, this proves that this area can be a halfway decent display advertisement space. And that is it. Unfortunately, you have a very small amount of space there. They've also proven with the Broadway thing that you cannot have a double usage of this space. You can't put that in and then also have a place for people to sit down and eat. I don't know if either one of you happen to visit during any of the Epcot festivals 2020, 2021, 2022, when they were using the World Showplace as the festival center space. The World Showplace is, I don't think it was ever meant to be permanent, but it's been there for like, I don't know, 20, 25 years. And it is normally a convention space. It's normally rented out. But during the COVID era, when they had Wonders of Life shut down, which was the space that they were using for festival headquarters, and then kind of the Odyssey is a semi-festival headquarters, and now it kind of doubles as that. It's so convoluted the way they've done things at Epcot, and it's such a disappointment for anybody who is like culture, myself, you, Josh Harris, those longtime Epcot fans from the 1980s and 90s when it was like amazing. It's such a letdown from what it was. That space, the World Showplace, was kind of cool because it was a really large space. You had a lot of tables in there. You had entertainment. You had live entertainment. You had a piano player up there. They had, I want to say, 4 different food kiosks inside of there, which is pretty big. That's a good amount of food kiosks to put inside that space. Now that they've destroyed the building, as Culture said, the one that was there, that they was perfectly utilizable, that they simply could have expanded, redecorated, whatever into what was there before was so much better as far as the infrastructure. And it's clear that it could have been used because the very same buildings were utilized on the other side of the plaza, right, where they, just put in a new store and then innovations.
Ron, I just want to say this. We lost a lot of nostalgia locations, but we lost a lot of themed area as well. I mean, when you think about how you used to enter the park, you had a primary center that held the focus because it was very kinetic, right? That's all gone now. Your entry into the park is less than stellar. There isn't a lot of things to draw your eye, and if they do, it's because they're an eyesore. And look, I have to tell you, Mouse Gear is a massive loss. If you think about it, it was a lot of creativity jammed into one place, very Disney themed, but at the same time, it kept the Epcot spirit. When you used to enter the park, you had Future World, which kind of looked forward, which very much quickly just became very retro looking, which was actually even equally as cool. But then World Showcase, the park was properly divided. The idea of the neighborhoods never came to fruition. If you remember that conversation, Vash, and I know you do, and I know you do as well, Ron. But I think that was probably one of the most disappointing things to me is they tried to come out with a new concept that never really showed up. And they have yet to rectify actual issues in the park. Instead, they've created more.
And at the same time, they, instead of fixing what they could fix at Epcot, and finishing the job, which was never really truly finished, they want to destroy Rivers of America. They want to destroy the Muppets. They want to take away beloved, not really nostalgic things, but beloved generational icons in the parks and I've said this before. Here's what they're really destroying. They're honestly destroying their audience. I don't know if they're trying to gain a new audience, but that's not how a theme park audience builds. A theme park audience builds from one generation taking the next generation to the theme park when they're younger and saying, oh, I loved this, and now they're doing this for you. Isn't that cool? But they're taking that away.
Well, Vash has all these amazing things. Vash, you want to tell the audience what we are supposed to be looking at?
Oh, well, this is amazing concept artwork here by Herb Ryman, and just stunning. His use of watercolors were just absolutely fantastic. But this was the initial conception of Epcot, and obviously, well, that changed over time. But what we're looking at right here is what was supposed to be at Epcot. This is what was announced and debuted at the 2019 D23 Expo with Bob Chapek actually on stage, and he took us through many different slides showing fountains. What is it?
Yeah,
it was like a tree, but it was like a trapezoid design. It was very, very interesting. And obviously the festival center that you can actually see over there, just kind of right of your screen.
Yep.
And this pathway here that the previous side of, what is it, Interventions, was it West, if I'm not mistaken, was torn down. And that this was what was going to replace that. Yeah. But then you get to 2020 and, the company just took on, $40 billion worth of debt from the Fox purchase. They were having problems just even paying interest rates on that debt at that time. And so all projects were halted, less for some things like this Galactic Star Cruiser, for example, but that's a whole other story. And so it was like, okay, well, we had to reduce what we're going to do here. But the building had already been demolished. So now it's like, now what do you do? So that's where we got Communicore Hall. And it was a bad plan to begin with. I think, some people were excited about this. Some people were looking at this with anticipation. But I don't think anybody was comfortable until we actually were going to see what we were going to get.
Right.
Go ahead, please.
Interrupt real quickly. I think one of the biggest problems is with the aftermath of the budgetary cuts left us with what I would call very authoritarian / Marxist architecture, because it was all in the brutalist style. So I feel like, the park kind of felt like visiting Russia. I think that's what it was. If they'd painted everything black or a dark gray, then it would have been like what you would see. I'm not talking about the architecturally beautiful parts of Russia. I'm saying the brutalist era, right? It was, I'm going to say something unpopular, Stalinistic, in my opinion. So, but that's what we were left with after these budgetary cuts. And I again, the visual appeal of this park was top notch. It had years of vegetation growth, lots of just absolute natural beauty, and that doesn't exist anymore. They pulled out one of the, again, this park now lacks in kinetics, and the only thing that moves in this park is the monorail, and that's about it. I mean, once you have to get all the way to the middle of the park between Future World, I'm still going to call it that, and World Showcase, in order to see kinetic movement.
Yeah,
because go ahead.
It's very upsetting to me that even I thought this back in 2017 when all of this was very first announced. It was very upsetting to me that they chose not to bring a people mover to this park. Epcot was always supposed to have a people mover in the design from the city, and I thought, wow, what a perfect opportunity this is. They're going to revamp Epcot a lot, and not a people mover as a ride attraction, but I thought this is the perfect opportunity to bring a people mover to the park as an actual people mover, like something where you can get, this is a huge park, by the way, big walking park. People do walk the park for exercise. It is over a mile around the World Showcase, just walking that one thing around. That's a mile, and then so you've got a lot. Like if you're walking from the back to the like from America to the front of the park to get out, that's a long walk to get to your car. You don't think about it when you're in a park, but I think about it like it would be like me walking from my house to my local movie theater. It's a pretty long walk, but that's about the same as the park. And you don't think about it when you're there, but yeah. So it's so much missed opportunity, but the reason it's missed opportunity, and I think that's what we need to get to, is the reason why it's so much missed opportunity is the leadership, the current leadership in Disney, and the priorities. $70 billion on the Fox acquisition. That, imagine if that money had been put into the parks, and we actually had Imagineers that knew what they were doing, and we actually had a leader of Walt Disney Company that understood that the parks are the biggest revenue maker and where people go to. I mean, you want to walk into the park and feel magic, and You want to walk out of the park having dreams and visions. And Epcot was like that. When I was a kid, I remember walking out of Epcot going, oh my God, the future. Wow. It's going to be like so cool and so awesome. And now I walk out of Epcot going, I could have just studied at my local college quad. That's what it feels like.
Well,
Yeah.
visually and in experience, you basically are out. You're at one of the most expensive outdoor malls at this point, because the tie-ins aren't there. The architecture is not right. There's not a I'm leading you to something fantastical kind of feel. I mean, again, walking betwixt the Communicore buildings, right? Was kind of neat. First of all, it's a wind tunnel, so on a hot day, you can just stand there and like get some relief from the overwhelming humidity and heat. But
not now.
Yeah, no,
it's worse. It's worse.
At the same time, you were being let off in a spoke and wheel, kind of a hub and spoke kind of a presentation even there. And that's something that's drastically missing now. The delineation between the given lands, the hidden treasures that were around corners that you had to actually navigate to get between here and there. The Seas Pavilion, is now just exposed. There's not a lot of differentiation between the different pavilions in Future World. I would have rather they spent money on upgrading or restoring Imagination, giving us something in the Wonders of Life Pavilion for a change. If they wanted a festival center, there was plenty of space to do it in abandoned areas. You have to consider that, there was a building that was not in use for a very, very long time and, became office space and occasionally a festival center for home brewing, it seems like, for alcohol and occasional tasting, the Odyssey restaurant and all the other things that just went by the wayside, opportunities that they left behind. Anyway, we far from the subject we were going to talk about, but I just
well, it's fine.
Can I just say one thing real quick? There was something.
Go ahead, Ron. I'll go ahead and let you close it off.
Yeah, there was something that they brought back, and I think it was 2021, and it was in the Festival of the Arts, and it was very, very brief, and it was in the Odyssey building. It was, for me, it was one of the coolest things ever. It was the original pin tables, and if you don't wonder what the pin tables were, they had the little, they had like pins on the very top of them, and you'd put your hand underneath the pins to make it like a hand sculpture. You could put your face underneath there and push those pins up. They put the two original pin tables that they had in Journey into the Imagination in the Odyssey building. It was just the 1 year that they did it. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Something from my actual childhood is here again. And it was such a little tiny, minute thing and detail to bring back the feelings that I had of Epcot during my childhood. And they could do that on a large scale, but they chose not to. Which is my point. My point is that they've ruined it.
They have ruined it. And you mentioned, Ron, earlier that you were looking forward to a People Mover to being added to Epcot via Project Gamma. Well, I can tell you right now, from somebody who was a child when I experienced this, so childhood remanifest, so to speak. August 21st, 1995 was the closure date of the People Mover at Disneyland. And this is going to be the 20th year that has been closed at that park. So at least coming from Disneyland, I wasn't so confident that they'd be adding anything like that. But it feels bad that they got rid of so much for Communicore Hall. We'll just have to see how the future treats Epcot going forward.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.